Improving employees' mental health has been linked to increasing productivity. However, it's not always that simple to know what to do, let alone how much it might cost and how are you going to get the organization there. Now, there's another twist to this episode. We also know that entrepreneurs and founders have to overcome a lot of challenges to navigate the roller coaster journey of entrepreneurship. And of course, one of them is our own mental well being. One of the biggest struggle is money, finding investments. Now, one of the other things that I was really excited about bringing our guest today was to really start looking at her perspective. Should we go out there bootstrapping or should we go crazy running after investors? Let's hear a fresh perspective from Ngozi Cadmus, who is challenging conventional wisdom, emphasizing the critical importance of sales and soft skills, and while at the same time exploring a groundbreaking mental health platform designed to empower individuals and at the workplace. Ngozi is the CEO of Happiworkers. As a mental health social worker, psychotherapist, entrepreneur, and doctoral researcher focused on Black women in leadership, she currently serves as the CEO of Frontline Therapist, a platform dedicated to providing multicultural, accessible, and affordable psychological therapy for the global majority. Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show. I'm Naomi Makambu from Athena Leaders. As a tech consultant and startup advisor, I will answer live the burning question that you have on your journey to Series A+. Subscribe and tune in every week for top tips to meet amazing guests, startup founders, investors, and more. More importantly, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Ngozi, thank you so much for being here with us. And I know how busy you are. There's always so many exciting things happening in your life. I absolutely love watching, reading your LinkedIn feed because there's always something incredible that you are telling us. But for those of us who have spent their entire life missing out on the opportunity of getting to know you, can you let us know a little bit about you and also about Happiworkers?
Well, thank you, Nili, for inviting me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. And hello, world. Hello, everyone that's listening live and that will listen later on. Okay, so a bit about me. This is always the dreaded question, right? In an interview, tell me about yourself. And you start going, I was born in. I guess in a nutshell, I would say that, and you mentioned it already, like I'm somebody who has always been, who's always desired to help people, who's always desired to help others, right? And I think most of the world, generally speaking, they want to do some sort of help and good. But I've also always been very much solution orientated. And, it can be sometimes that we spend a lot of time talking about the problem, a lot of time talking about the issue, but sometimes not enough time finding ways to really solve the issue, because solving the issue is hard. Solving the issue means you got to put grit, you got to put determination, and sometimes you got to put moolah to actually effectively solving the issue. And I think when I think about my social work, and I still practice, I'm also still practicing psychotherapist, and I will stay like that. People say, oh, when you grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger, would you stop? I said, no, because it keeps me grounded. It keeps me connected to what's really happening. And reality is the work that I do as an entrepreneur, although amazing, although important, it's not unlike social work or psychotherapy, actually sitting down with people, helping them facilitate a healing process, or really supporting them when I sometimes detain people under the Mental Health Act. You're not going to get that as a, entrepreneur. So I think just to know a little bit about me, I'm highly passionate, highly motivated, and I am very much about, if you put challenges in my way, I'm going to find ways to navigate around, over, through. I will make sure I bulldoze down. And I think being a Black woman and speaking to you as another fellow Black woman, we already know some of the challenges that we have. Some people don't believe that there is. Some people believe that there is. Wherever you sit on that camp, the reality is life can be very hard. And depending on sometimes your cultural background, your socioeconomic background, it can be a little bit harder. But I don't use that as an excuse. I use it as a challenge to overcome, and so that I can pave the way for others like myself to also pave their own way.
Love that perspective. This is great. And I did tell people that they will be wowed and energized because I actually am feeling goosebumps when I listen to you speak. And
Bless you.
I just love that way of looking at challenges. You know, there's just sometimes we see the world as restrictions. And even one of the things that people talk a lot about, you know, glass ceiling for women in general, let alone for Black women. But even just for me, rather than looking at it as glass ceiling, just reframing that as challenges, and I'm going to push through, as you lovely put it. I'm going to push through. There's no limitation on what I can do, and you're going with that. And I also love your passion, as you said. If I make a lot of money, do I stop? Why would you stop something that brings you your passion, your ikigai, and kind of your purpose in life? So did you always know that you wanted to go into this field, or is it something that you discovered in your way?
Did I always know I wanted to do this? I always know I wanted to make money because I've come from a poor background and I knew that I wanted to create generational wealth. I wanted to retire my mother. That was my main thing. People say that I didn't want the shiny stuff, all of that stuff. People say, why do you want money? I just want to retire my mum and I want to give my children opportunity I didn't have. So I want to allow them to play the piano, to get extra tutoring. That costs money. And now it's more expensive than it was in the 90s when I was growing up. And so to do even any extracurricular activities for your children probably cost a couple of £100 a month. And imagine if you've got more than one child. That's literally what I'm doing it for. I want to look after my mum and then create generational wealth. Anything else added on that is a bonus. So I always knew that I wanted to be able to do that. How I did that, I knew it had to be from some sort of business. But no, did I sit here 10 years ago and think I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing? Hell to the no. I thought it'd be directly from real estate. I kind of thought it would be by those traditional means, housing is the best asset, all of that stuff. I didn't think I would first and foremost create a successful business in mental health and then go, oh, because of this, I can actually do even bigger and better and then become a tech founder. Even 7 months ago, no, let me say this. A year ago, I was at the Web Summit and my friend got me a free ticket and then I paid my way there. And when people used to say, like, what do you do? Because obviously everybody there predominantly is somewhat in tech. I was just like, I'm just a social worker and psychotherapist. I was like, I don't even know why I'm here. I just know that I had an opportunity. I thought, why not? Let me see what's happening in the world of tech. But I did feel a bit embarrassed because I was like, everybody's doing their seed. I didn't know what these meant. The seed and Series A and all of this stuff. Had no idea what they meant. And I generally was like social worker and psychotherapist. But behold, 1 year later, I'm now embarking on my own journey and I understand now what seed investment is, what Series A, all of those different stands. I understand those are the life cycles of a startup, in investment. So what a year, what can happen in 1 year? And I think a lot of it is about the journey. A lot of us want to dictate how our life is going to be. And I think that isn't the right thing to do. What is really good and what can be quite scary is you just going through life and going through the process and being willing to learn. And when you're willing to learn, you're willing to take risks, you have faith, life will evolve. And in the decisions that you make or don't make, you'll begin to see what you're called to. So in pressing forward and I had another idea before Happy Workers. Happy Workers came because I realized that idea wouldn't work. And Happy Workers emerged because that was my actual original idea in 2018, but I did not think I was able to create a tech company. And then now 5 years later, I'm now started that journey.
Very interesting. Let's kind of stop in there because, of course, when we look at the growth of the growth of businesses, whether there's a tech platform involved or not, there's a lot of pivoting that goes in the way. Now, interestingly, in addition to pivoting, there's also the fact that sometimes we sit on ideas until something happens that it's so powerful and so loud that we need to answer it for ourselves or to solve a problem out there. We already know that you are a very solution focused person. So I'm intrigued, and I'm sure many people are or will be. How did you, or what made you go from 2018, I've got this idea, and now 2021, 22, let's put it into practice?
So in 2018, I knew that I wanted to do something in mental health. I had a situation where I was not able to support an older woman, providing her for therapy. And I was like, I saw a need that like I'm going to fill it. And I was looking at other things around, and I was like, okay, maybe I can do something in tech. I'm not technical, and it just seemed too big. And the money that I was quoted to create this website was like £20,000. And in 2018, I was like, where do I get £20,000 from? So then I said, okay, I don't think I can do that, but I can actually create a mental health service. And the capital that I needed was £2,000. Now, for some people, that's still a lot. I didn't have that. I borrowed that from my fellowship. So, in sense of the word, I still did it, but I did it in a very smaller way. It seemed a bit more attainable to gather £2,000 and start a mental health service than get 20K and start a tech platform that I was trying to create. But in doing that, that £2,000 generated me a really significant amount of money and massive impact from 2018 to 2023. I've then realized that I can actually essentially digitalize all the services and offerings and make it even bigger. Found my amazing co-founder, and now Happiworkers is birthed. So essentially, Happiworkers could not have being created without frontline therapists, though Happiworkers may have been the original idea. And when I say that, I don't mean the name. Happiworkers, you get the name after, right? But the ideation came in 2018. Well, I didn't have the capacity, didn't have the mindset to do it. So I started something smaller, and then that, I guess you could say, the proof of concept had been shown in a service way, and now we're creating a technological platform on the back of that work, on the back of that network, on the back of the connections, on the back of the experience that I've learned. Now I have the capacity to build something of this gratitude. But and also 20K is not a big deal now. Where before 20K was like, oh my god, now what? The platform probably going to cost triple the amount to create. So I had to go through a 5-year journey, a mindset shift in myself, believing that I do have the capacity to be a tech founder. Because to be fair, even in March of 2023, a friend said to me, why don't you digitalize, frontline therapy? I said to her, I don't think I can do it. Then 2 months later in May, I said, I'm doing it. Right. So even just another 2 months of still not believing that I could do it, it took those 2 months doing something else, and then asking myself a very important question, and then realizing that I think I can do this. Meeting my co-founder, I met her already, but asking my co-founder, is what I'm saying making sense? Can this be a technical platform? She went, of course it can. Then we began. End of May, and now we're here about to launch our platform, about to be live in January, and we are speaking to many different companies, seeing how we can partner with them to support them in their workplace with their well-being.
That's very incredible, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. And I really wanted to emphasize this as I think you kind of made my life easy. Next time I speak to a founder, and I really try to get them to think like you thought, to go through your mental process, I'll just say, okay, all right, watch this episode. Once you're done, come and speak to me again. One of the biggest challenges that I see a lot, especially when it comes to non-technical founders, but sometimes even technical founders building a platform for the first time. One is always about how do I get investment first? And the second is about how do I build this thing that is massive, that I might not even understand the ins and outs, the features that the people really want, and how I'm going to make it special. So when I was speaking at a conference, or various conferences, on the idea of product validation and how do you simplify that concept, especially at the beginning, and I'm actually doing another talk for Founder Institute in London, and it's always about pretty much what you've done in real life. It's first of all is, if you can build the smallest thing, or even a service, of course, no jargon words, I'm sure there's plenty of things that I would like not going to mention those, but how do you create a service or something where you can actually make money from it? It gets you so close to your target market. You start to grow your brand. People know about you, so that when you get to the point where you want to ramp up the platform, you're not starting from zero. And I mean, Ngozi, that's exactly what you've done. And I really love the strategy that you've taken. And one more thing I want to highlight through your story, what you've mentioned on the mindset shift. We really underestimate how much time it takes us from learning something to make it part of us and making the most of it. I get a lot of people that says, well, I've been on an accelerator or from like 2 weeks or 6 months or 4 months or whatever. And I think I wasted my time because I'm not a master at XYZ. Yeah, you might know the theory, you might understand certain things, but it's through applying it constantly and letting your brain catch up to the comfort zone and making that new thing part of your comfort zone, and you can own it and just expand as a person, that you go far as a founder. And again, just hearing you talk really shows how yourself have gone through that particular journey.
And I think, just to emphasize what you said strategy. This happened accidentally, guys. It's really important to sometimes recognize. I didn't sit there in 2018 with this kind of, this is how it's going to be. It's like I think the most important thing that I tell people is that it's in the journey you evolve. Let me give you an example. I'm very transparent. When we got our website presence in July, if you go into it now, you're going to see that it's not different to how I'm talking to companies about it, but it really focuses on career development and mental health. Because one of the key things that I realized and saw is that if you are struggling in your career, it's going to affect your mental well-being. So I wanted to make that connection, and I thought that's an amazing USP. I still think it is, and it still is our USP. But I realized that in feedback and speaking to people, when we said career development, sometimes their mind went to things like digital skills or like marketing skills, like things that you need for your career, like hard skills. When I was talking about the soft skills, how to be a good leader, how to have difficult conversation, how to have emotional intelligence. But when someone has career development, they don't go to that until I have to break that down. So I said, okay, we've got to change it to personal development. And then also, the work that I did, and most of my work is in minority mental health. So although Frontline Therapist was for everybody but geared towards the global majority, Happiworkers is for everybody. I realized that companies loved it when I mentioned it was culturally sensitive. They love the word personalized. They love the word holistic, because the practitioners on our platform are holistic, not just therapists or counselors. They're nutritionists. They're financial well-being coaches. It's a broad range of disciplines. So when you go to the website, and if you see how I speak about it, not massive differences, but there's differences. So the new website will have to now cater to all of the words I've just mentioned to you. But I would not have known that. From July till now, I've had more than dozens of conversations with HR leaders, with D&I, and with well-being. And it's in the conversation. It's as we're speaking, as they ask me questions, and even they might say to me, I think it's really good you focus on this part. This is really what we like. It's made me tweak the USP, tweak the messaging. They call it messaging market fit, right? So I would not have known that if I scratched my head and as I was doing my pitch deck, as you do, right, when you first get into the space in July, I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to distill that. It's only in the practice. It's only in having these conversations that now, if I was to create a pitch deck now, it would be very different, because I have wordings. Likewise, also when I start working with companies, it might change a little bit different as well. And I think that's one of the things that I think the tech space is not really good at, because it's so focused on getting investment. And because for those listening, I did not know that companies can get investment and they're not profitable. I just assumed when you heard that Uber or this company is 1 billion, that they are making 1 billion. Didn't know it was investment. I learned that June of 2023, meaning that all I understood, I just generally assumed your business generates money, you can take out loans, you can even get investment, but you have to get break even and become profitable. I didn't know you can be fed money to grow and expand until you become profitable. So that's my mindset. So when I came into this, I was told I need to seek investment. So I said, oh, okay, what do I need to do to seek investment? You need to create a pitch deck. So I'm creating pitch decks, and haven't even gone out there into the world. So when I realized that, you know what, and it's really hard out there to get funding, as they say, and I was like, I don't think I have the energy to convince somebody of an idea. Let me do what I know best, right? Let me go out there and start getting feedback. Let me start failing fast, having meetings upon meetings upon meetings, botch a meeting, go, oh, I should have said that. I should have done that. So literally in the last 3 months, I have distilled so much learning. Now, my sales coach has got another strategy to speak to what they call it, our ideal customer persona. And literally, I just implemented it today, started it, and I've already got 1 booking on Friday. So, so I'm saying all of this just to say is that I had to do all of this. I'm not saying everybody's got to do the same journey, but I really want to encourage those that have come into this tech world, a bit like myself, maybe a bit naive. You come from the public sector, you come from the NHS, the local authority. You're not from the tech world. I didn't have a corporate job beforehand. I kind of went from local authority, started my own business. You have so much valuable stuff that's missing in the tech world, because every founder I meet is seeking investors, and when I tell them what I'm doing, they're like gobsmacked, going, oh my God, like, you're talking to people. I'm like, yeah, when did you start? Just September. I'm talking to customers. I'm trying to understand, do they want what we're creating? I do not want to waste money. I want to get feedback right now. So if I need to pivot, we pivot now. We still got time to pivot. And I think that these stories, and if and when Happy Workers become successful, I really hope that I can share there is other ways of being a tech unicorn business than the typical, you get an idea and you seek investment. You can go straight into the market and start getting that feedback and allow that to iterate and allow that to shape what you're creating.
I believe that your story is even more powerful now as you are going through the journey and hitting those milestones. Then wait until you're much bigger. As you're talking, my brain is already going on which groups of founders I know. And by the way, I found a woman that you all need to listen to. Because as I said, I completely agree with you. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot, and again, one of the reasons why I started my podcast was to give platform to founders that are navigating the current situation right now. I bring a lot of experts from different fields to grow the ecosystem. But importantly, we also want to hear from founders and the techniques that they are using now so that people can think differently. When you go online, as you've rightly said, especially on LinkedIn, it's all about raising. Who closed the Series D, A, whatever. Great. But how did they start it to even get there? Because that's what a lot of people want to know. And whilst they were going through that, what were their challenges? And people need to know that. So when we start looking at what the current landscape, we can, read the stories of WeWork, right? WeWork that they've had so many rounds of funding. But when you look at the culture of the company, you look at what's happening now. Of course, COVID had an impact, but even before COVID, when you look at the amount of funding that they've had, the success that they have externally, and you look at how profitable this company is, there's a bit of a discrepancy out there. Yet, actually, it reminds me of a great episode I did with Chris Jones, which I think you might know. And we talked a lot about bootstrapping and why it was important to really reframe our mind to this idea of how do I go there and start generating revenue, really understanding the pain points. And in fact, with some other advisors, especially on different things I'm working on for startups, we're talking about why is it that people spend thousands and thousands and thousands, I'm talking over 5K, right, for a pitch deck, when you haven't even spoken to your client's market. You don't know their real pain points. You don't know, you don't even understand your own potential solution. And more importantly, the words to be able to convince. I mean, Ngozi, your story really, I'm so glad that you're here because your story is really, really emphasizing that power. So can you share us a little bit more about your bootstrapping techniques and see the mindset that has helped you to go to, that's where I'm going for sales, getting clients there, and then we build a platform?
So I think it helps because I guess the term bootstrapping, I only learned this in June. That's what I did. That's my previous business. I say this, businesses outside the tech world, that's what they do. They either get a loan out or they have to put in their own capital. You normally get break even and then you're hoping to make profit, right? It's a totally different world. Yes, it's still intense and yes, you still need to make it, but the tenure of businesses is shorter in tech. Like if you don't get a certain place by 1 year, it's like, okay, maybe start again or pivot. Where with businesses, don't give up, the whole typical thing. So it's a very different world. And I guess the bootstrapping is what I did. My previous business was bootstrapped. I borrowed a 2K. I flipped it in the first year to 200,000 and I've made about over £1 million in 3 years. So, and it never took any external funders. Some people did want to invest in me. I didn't want that. This was my business. I controlled the business with a really, really, really strong team. So that's all I knew. So it's funny because I'm saying bootstrapping, but that's all I knew. So all I know is to bootstrap. I don't actually know what it's like to be given a significant amount of money to then deploy it into the business. All I know is the little money that I have, how can I stretch it? And then the money that's generated it, I then took risk. So the same principle still occurred. I took risk. I spent over 400,000 on influencer marketing, getting my business out there, doing all different types of stuff. I did Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads. So I learned a lot of really good marketing techniques. And because it was a predominantly B2C model that I was using, obviously churn is high. So you're constantly having to get an inload of new customers every month. So I learned all of the digital marketing skills that I guess I am employing into Happy Workers with less budget and thinking creatively. And I think that what it teaches you to be is capital efficient. When you're spending your own money, you spend it wisely, right? You're really thinking about the return on investment. But the principle is the same. I've got I've got quite a high risk appetite. So I'm not risk averse. I'm actually quite risky. I've taken a lot of risk. Majority have paid off, some haven't. It's part of the learning process. But that's the money that's generated from the business. So I don't even know what it's even like. I probably will be very scared when I get the first investment. Like, what do I do with somebody's money? I might be like, I don't want to spend it. Somebody needs to spend it for me, because I'm also
You keep it there, so that it's safe and you can return it eventually.
And the funny thing is, when I talk to people, they say, "No, you've got to spend it. You've got to spend the money." I'll be like, "But I don't want to spend the money. I don't want. I want to look at it in the bank." So that's going to be my biggest hurdle, is spending the money, because I'm actually very budget. I've got a high risk appetite, but I'm a scrupular for money. Like, I will find ways of not spending money if I don't have to spend money. So that will be an issue. The investor will be like, "Have you spent money?" No, it's only been 6 months. You haven't spent the money. I said no. So that will be another hurdle. But I think being bootstrapped, I think the idea of it makes you capital efficient. I don't want people to see it as a bad thing. Now, let me be very honest to people, because there's going to be some people sitting there. I've got to be very honest. I had a successful, profitable business, and that allows me to bootstrap. So I'm not the same as somebody else. I'm not how I was when I first started the business, where my money that I was investing was coming in from, like, maybe your own personal fund. So my businesses are funding Happy Workers. So I'm in a fortunate position, not necessarily like got massive millions of endless money, but I am better than maybe the average person. But that's because I did a bootstrap business first, and it made money. And I want to encourage people that are doing bootstrap businesses, that I honestly think it gives you a leg up. It does, because I've met a few businesses that have been honest with me when you meet them in networking events, and they're like, I spent a lot of the money. Like, they admit that, oh my God, the money's gone, or they're kind of panicking, or it's very easy to spend the money. And I'm like, easy? I think it'll be scary to spend someone else's money. So they don't have the skill set that you might have when you've got to pinch and pound every single, where you've got to negotiate every single price, because you've only got 3K left. Like, there are skills that you have as a bootstrap business that a lot of people who get investment immediately don't have, right? And also, let me tell you something else. If you do it right, like if you bootstrap and you focus on sales, because sales is the engine of your business, I'm telling you, there are businesses right now doing something kind of similar to myself. They're in the mental health space that've got investment, that haven't got no customers. Like, they got no customers. They've been out here for 2 years, but they've got £2 million. And it might seem good from the outside, but when you talk to them, they're nervous because they actually haven't got customers. They can't sell because they haven't sold yet. They haven't spoken to customers, but they were able to convince investors, which is still selling in one sense. But that is different by showing that there's a demand in the market. So what I'm doing, and what I encourage a lot of businesses to do, if they can do that, is to demonstrate traction. Traction isn't just for the investors. I'm not doing traction so that I can get investment. I'm doing traction so I can retain, me and my co-founder can retain as much equity in the business, because we don't want to do the typical, by the time you get to series A and B, you're like left with a little bit. I've learned what the importance of having a good board around you, but retaining control, because I've got a vision for Happy Workers, and I don't want anyone coming just because they want money. Yes, I want to make money from this business, but this business is to change people's lives. And I think you can do it. We can do that both and still be profitable. So if we can demonstrate that we can get companies on our own backs, it's not easy, but companies on our own backs, we have, what they call it, more leverage. We have more talking power to say, well, we want to give 10% away rather than the 50 and 20% away we would have. when we were trying to convince them of an idea, when we're showing them our growth trajectory, how much we're making per month and what we can make. So I think bootstrapping and what I've done before gives me the confidence to say, if I can do what I think I can do in the next 6 months to a year, when we speak to an investor, we'll be laughing. We'll be sitting around the table and they'll be asking us and begging us, not us saying, no, please, we need your money. It'll be
The
like,
one lining outside of your front door and coming and running after you rather than than the other way around. Yeah.
And that's the aim. It's rare. It does happen, and I know it's rare. But I think if I can do what I've done with Frontline Therapists in a bigger way, I think that can be done. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the impossible, not by raising a lot of money. I'm trying to actually get a point where investors are coming to us saying, we've heard this is your, your MAR, whatever they want to call it, your AAR. Yeah, that we've got FOMO. We want to jump in. I'm like, come, let's sit, let's talk, let's discuss the terms.
But this is my part of the cake, and my part of the cake is quite big. And one thing I really want to also kind of reiterate there is that this episode is not to discourage those who are going for investment. And as Ngozi, you've put it, it really depends on your own personal situation and how much money you have. Even if you are going though for investment, do remember that at the end of the day, having money in the bank, having clients coming to you and paying for your services is a very, very good validation, and will also increase your bargaining power when it comes to going there and looking for investment. So regardless of whichever strategy you are going to do, all of the advice that Ngozi has shared in this episode still applies. You still need to think about what is the smallest thing that you are going to go out in the market, talk to people about, understand the pain point that will go into your pitch decks, that will go into your website and your brochure to sell to other potential customers. Think about how you can, if you do not have the money to build, and actually even if you have the money to build, because that's one of the biggest problems, trying to stop people to build too early. How can you turn this into a service that could be highly automated, no code in some way, or the likes, but you can still go out and build? So I think if you want to take only one thing from this one key message from that Ngozi has shared is, get off your backside, go out there and get comfortable being uncomfortable, selling until you look at, you grow your skill set.
And now I'm going to look at, I just want to say, irrespective if you bootstrap first or you get investment first, you're going to have to sell. So the only way, because the way that investment needs to be deployed so that you can get profit and returns is to sell, right? Be B2C, B2B, B2BC, or whatever you want to call it, you need to sell. The lifeblood of any business, whether it's a tech business, outside of the tech world, general business, is sell. So some people, we just start selling earlier. That's the difference. The difference is that I'm selling earlier than you, but you're going to sell, because in a year or 2 years time, I'll be on the treadmill of investment. Main difference is I'm trying to put myself in a better position with my co-founder. So we have more bargaining power. And also the reality is, as a Black woman, they say 0.2 comes to us. So I don't want any reason or any excuse for any investor to say, oh no, because they don't want to invest in me, be it that they say the market is saturated because I'm a Black woman. Whatever it is, I would say the market is saturated, but we've got a bit of a foothold. I'm a Black woman, but this is my second business. There'll be no reason. So yes, part of me doing this is to make sure, and that's just the way life is, I've got to work 10 times harder. I'm not complaining about it. That's what I got to do. I will do it, and I'll do it well. So that's just encouragement to women of color, people from different minority groups. The reality is life is sometimes unfair and it's hard, but we suck it up. You go therapy, you cry in therapy, but you suck it up and you push through that door, and you show the investors, you show the naysayers that I and many people like me are able to do a business just as well as any white man from Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm. And if you are thinking about therapy for whatever reasons, whether it's because you're an entrepreneur or life happens, which generally it does, then do remember that Happiworkers is there, and Frontline Services and more. So check out Ngozi. We're going to put some more information on the show notes and on our website so that you can go and find her on LinkedIn and find out what they are doing. If you know anyone that's in HR, people leads, or the likes, 2024 is coming, and I'm sure you're starting to plan on what is it that we need to bring on board that can really change the level of support that we are giving to our people. The world might be going insane and so many things happening, and I'm sure that there's definitely, don't miss out. I think the perfect moment is actually to speak to Ngozi as soon as possible. And for those out there that are thinking, wow, this is great, but how do I break down my idea into different pieces so that I can see how to create smaller prototype or smaller services to go out there in the market and talk to the target market and even start making money? Why not? Then do reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you. And we also run every month one session free of charge where I sit down, or my team will sit down with you to really try to get you thinking differently, identify those areas, validate your ideas, and even start thinking about what are the next steps if you are at the stage where you are building, whether you're technical or not. Now, there's a little game that I love to play, and most of the time my guests don't even know about it because I try not to tell them unless they've been listening to me for a while. It's a quick fire section because it really allows us to go deeper and really connect with them as well. Right. First question, which is usually the most difficult one. Early birds or night owls?
Early bird.
Great. Second question, what are 3 of your most favorite tools?
Right now, Gmail. Like you can't go wrong with Gmail. LinkedIn and HubSpot.
Yeah, very interesting. And in fact, for I'm actually doing a mental analysis because every time I ask this question, it's interesting to hear the tools that people come out with, because I even had people who mentioned some other non-technical tools as well, which was like, oh, I never thought about that. So it's great, very interesting. Definitely gives me an insight into you as well. Next question. One mistake that you've made as a founder, an entrepreneur in general, that other founders should watch out for?
Don't let anybody make you feel like your previous experience is not good enough. I did that. So when I first came into the founder world, I'm not like that anyways. I'm not very boastful, but I didn't introduce myself the best way. You know, I would kind of just say, oh, I'm just a social worker and psychotherapist still. So now I actually introduce myself as a second-time founder because I am. And even that, I remember saying that and someone said, oh, is your business known though? So why are you saying you're a second-time founder? And I said, well, whether it's known or not, it made decent money. And the reason why I'm able to be here is because of my business. So I will own second-time founder. No, it doesn't mean that my founding before was a massive tech business. So that's what I mean. There's a lot of ego in the world, but especially in the tech world. And don't let that fool you. A lot of people just talk, a lot of people empty air. There's a lot of really good people. Like you mentioned Chris Jones, he was one of the first people that just spoke to myself and just said a lot of it is BS. And it was really good to just meet people in this ecosystem that see through the hype as well. So my biggest mistake would be feeling like, even the word bootstrapping, like just feeling bad. Like I did for the first 6 weeks, I felt really bad and felt a bit like embarrassed about what I've done previously. But now I'm not. I can see the benefits of what I've done. So I would say, don't do that. Because some of you guys are teachers. Some of you guys haven't even done a business before. It's your first business. It's fine. This may not work. It might be your second or third business that works. Please understand that your life experience before this is just as valuable than somebody who's worked in, Stripe and they were VP of that. Doesn't matter. Everybody's experience is valid. As long as you are determined, you are committed, you're willing to learn, that's what's important.
Wow, this is very powerful. Don't let anyone undermine your experience. And if you're not going to pat yourself on the back, people won't do it for you. And of course, Chris Jones calling it bullshit, I'm not even surprised. Say like nice. It is. That's what I love about. That's what I love about him. And the last question, what is the best day of your professional life?
You mean my best day ever or my best day generally, like the best day
ever?
The best day? Well, I haven't finished. I can't say, bro.
Best day. After a couple of days it will change, but so far.
so far. Best
forever.
day of my
Yeah.
professional life. I wouldn't say I can't. I'm not really good at saying that one day, but I would say whenever I get messages from clients who say, "If not for frontline therapist, I would have not been here." Yeah, those are amazing moments because sometimes, yeah, you do think about, wow, what did I do? You know, I had supervision today with my supervisor, that's a therapist, so we have supervision, and she asked me a similar question, like, what are you proud of? And I said, I'm really proud of the 3,000 plus people. It may not be 3 million, it may not be 30,000, but I've significantly helped 3,000 people in the work that I've done, and that to me means a lot because saving one person's life is important. And because I've gone through my own mental health experiences, I've thought I have not wanted to be here, knowing what happens when you get to that point of that cliff where you want to jump and then somebody stops you from that ledge. And it may not be me directly, it was through me creating a service and having hundreds of counselors do that. That means a lot because I don't know the amount of lives that I've saved. And when I did my TEDx talk, one of the members in the audience was actually a client, not of mine, but of the service. She didn't get to speak to me. I think she was intimidated, but somebody said, I sat next to somebody and she said, I asked her, like, why are you here for Inga? She said, she saved my life. Don't know who it is. I may never meet that person again. But I was like, I really wish I could meet that person, but I will never forget that day. So maybe that day when I got told about that was significant because I thought, wow, one obedience that I did. So God said, create frontline therapist. I did it. I was scared. I didn't want to. I did it. And it has saved, even if it's just one person's life, that is to me the best thing, the best day of my life so far, and will always be the best day of my life so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about that connection. Sometimes in society we like big numbers, but we forget that one person that you've helped, that you've smiled at, that you're serving, that you never even cross path with them, but through what you created, affecting them. That's really beautiful. And I want to also give a shout out to Camille Sainsbury, that's saying great advice to some of the things that we've been talking about. So thank you for stopping by on this show. Thank you so much, Ngozi. You've been such an amazing guest. And as I've said before, I love the work that you're doing and the impact that it has in general, but also the fresh perspective that you are bringing and your strong, powerful message, which I think that's what entrepreneurs need to hear, especially those within the tech startup ecosystem, because it's kind of, ride or die, and it's a really hard world out there being an entrepreneur in general. You go through so many other things. So highly recommend to anyone just stopping by now or just kind of skipping this episode, go back and really take your pen, paper, do write down a lot of the gems that Ngozi has shared in this episode. We are going to provide a transcript as well and some key advice for you. And I'm pretty sure that it's not the last time that you've seen Ngozi on our profile, because we are going to keep on amplifying her message. As we know, it provides a lot of value. So again, if you know anyone in the people, lead department, HR, the likes, send them our way, send them to Ngozi and see how we can start creating those strong partnerships to, one, support happy workers, more importantly, support everybody out there that go to work demotivated, feeling like there's something that's not quite right with them, but we know they can do something about that. And for the rest who wants to learn more on the tech, the product side, you're building and you're not sure who to work with, you've outsourced, you're like, oh my God, it's hell, how do I get out of this? Or how do I improve the situation? Then do reach out to me. Ngozi, before we go, what would be your last parting advice, especially to our community of startups, entrepreneurs that are going through this journey? They've been inspired by you and they just want one last drop that we can squeeze from you before we head off.
I would say one of the biggest powerful lessons is that you things unveil in the process. And what I mean by that is that sometimes we spend a lot of time just sitting there writing, thinking, planning, using Google. They're all good. But go out there, begin to ask questions, make those mistakes early, learn fast. It will save you time and it will save you money. And I think that we spend a lot of time with the idea in our head, talking with friends and family, good, putting it in a business plan pitch deck, good. But we spend less time actually going into the very market we're trying to penetrate and actually speaking to companies, speaking to customers, and finding out what they want, what they need, how would they like to hear how the solution that I've offered them, because you might create a solution, but the way you articulate it, like I mentioned earlier, it may not fit. So I think it's really important to just get out there and start speaking to people, start making those mistakes, and learn fast, learn quick, iterate, pivot, and implement.
Love it, love it. Learn fast, learn quick, iterate, pivot. That is your secret recipe. Thanks, Ngozi, for being such an amazing guest, and thank you to all of you listening out there. Do give us a thumbs up, like our episode, subscribe to help us to grow our channel, and whatever is going to happen to us, we know that, again, just linking back to passion and mission, we really want to provide a platform to have people like Ngozi to, one, amplify her message and use her story, her incredible experience, to support others out there that could be tired, wearing, ready to give up, or even just lost. More importantly, don't forget one of my favorite messages: dream, build, play. Let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.